My name's Chris Byers. I'm the Global Account Director at BlueSource, specialising in the Veritas space. I'm joined by Louise Blackledge, who heads up BlueSource's archiving e-discovery team, and it will be Louise's voice who you'll hear primarily throughout this presentation today. We're here to introduce ED12, which came out in early February. We've had a number of events which we've invited a large number of people to around introducing it personally, and we'd welcome visiting people and introducing it to you individually on an ongoing basis throughout the time you're looking to consider it. So don't be shy about coming forward and volunteering to have a visit from Louise and one of my colleagues or myself to talk you through the benefits of ED12. In this day of clouds and everything else like that, we do appreciate that people are considering what next, and we've got very many Enterprise Vault on-premise clients out there, and a lot of prospects we're talking to. We're actually still signing up new Enterprise Vault on-premise clients, so we know there's an uptake for this, but we also recognise at the same time that we're in a dynamic state at the minute, and plenty of people are considering their options in the future. And BlueSource can assist you with that journey as well as talking you through the whole Enterprise Vault 12 world and what the future looks like for Veritas as an on-premise solution. Just a little bit about BlueSource before we launch into this. BlueSource are a Veritas Platinum partner in archiving, e-discovery, and backup. So we cover the product Enterprise Vault, ED.Cloud, Clearwell, and NetBackup primarily, with other subsidiary products that fit into those things, such as Data Insight, which we'll touch on later on in the presentation. We're also a Microsoft partner. We're a Triple Gold partner, and we cover products such as SharePoint, Exchange AD, Skype for Business, and we're also a Nintex partner, so the workflow that drives all of that business as well. So that encapsulates BlueSource's services that we have out there. Without much further ado, I will hand over to Louise Blackledge, who will take us through the presentation.
Okay, thank you, Chris, for that wonderful introduction. Just a little bit about me. I've been working with Enterprise Vault since 2001, started with version 3.5, and I've pretty much spent most of my adult life in one way or another working with Enterprise Vault. So at the end, as Chris said, I mean, if you do have any questions about the different versions, what came out in each version, if you're still on a really old version, then I can talk you through each of the upgrade procedures for all of the versions. Okay, now I've put this slide on next just to cover what Enterprise Vault does now, and then I will go into the version 12. So pretty much Enterprise Vault, when it was first come out, it was put on the planet for Exchange archiving, people having big Exchange stores, and this was a way of resolving that. Then came along, it was Lotus Notes archiving, file and SharePoint archiving. So some of you may have one or more of these modules. So early days, it's about archiving that data, and then we came into the e-discovery world. So now clients were starting to think about, well, hey, I need to find this data that I've archived. So we've Veritas have got free tools. People often get confused about the tools and what the differences are, so I'll just do a quick high level. So Discovery Accelerator, Compliance Accelerator, these are e-discovery tools for searching against your archived data. They are not used for anything non-archived. And there's the e-discovery tool powered by Clearwell, previously called Clearwell, is for doing the advanced e-discovery against archived and non-archived data. So you could target your Exchange, your file, and your EV data and do advanced e-discovery. Now the differences between Discovery Accelerator and Compliance Accelerator: Discovery Accelerator is used for investigations. You're doing an investigation, you know what you're searching for, and then you create your case, create your searches, do your review, and export if required. Compliance Accelerator is used by the compliance teams to show that they're doing regular monitoring of the data that's going through the journal stores. So you'd set up your hot words, and then you'd do a daily search, and you could sample between 2% to 100% of that data going through the journal against those hot words, And then the compliance teams can review that data and just to show that they're monitoring their employees. And you could set this for a group of employees. It doesn't have to be everyone that you're monitoring. So,
just to avoid some confusion in all of this, sorry to interrupt you, Louise.
Okay.
You'll see the slides are sometimes titled Semantic and sometimes Veritas. This is all to do with the Veritas semantic split, which some of you may be aware of, others may not. So Semantic and Veritas have split. They are different organisations today, but clearly there is some legacy product information out there that still says Semantic on it. So where it says Semantic, please read Veritas until we tell you otherwise. It's we're slowly catching up, and this is a Veritas slide deck, believe it or not, so they're still using the semantic term as well. Sorry, Louise.
Okay, thank you, Christy. I know. Part of me just instantly wants to say semantic, whereas now I've got to train my mind to say Veritas and everything. Everything's gone from the yellow to a nice colour of red, and I much prefer red to yellow. Anyway, so version 12. So thinking about classifying your data, don't just throw everything into the journal. And we're going to go into lots of classification slides later on. Think about what you've got in there. Do you need all the data in there? Do you just want to classify and tag for rediscovery some of the data going into your archive, and how we use it? Enterprise Vault extensions, there's lots of step partners. So these are partners that will develop additional tools to utilize Enterprise Vault even further. So you've got the likes of partners like GlobalNet, Merge1, Actiance that will let you journal other types of data like your Bloomberg and Reuters messages or your BlackBerry SMS messages into Enterprise Vault. We've got some new cloud adapters as well. So we go through all of the new features with EV12. I've just put this in, I'm not going to dwell on it, but Enterprise Vault is still the leading archiving solution out there, pretty much for 10 years. Okay, new features. So OCR in. So Enterprise Vault will be able to OCR some of your scanned in documents, some of the forms. If someone takes a screen capture a document, then Enterprise Vault will be able to OCR that information. Default, it can OCR any of these file types: GIF, JPEGs, PNGs, TIFFs. You can enable this or disable this. It doesn't require any additional licensing and does come with the base EV12 software. So that's a new and exciting feature for some people. To enable this, you just need the TIFF-I filter installed on your server, and that's part of the Windows tools. So that's quite simple to set up. Okay, so pretty much it just an idea. It sees that it needs converting, it checks the file type, and then it will convert it using the OCR converter. And then it supports multiple different languages. So these are the examples of the language that it supports. Okay, so we go on to classification and retention plans. And why would you want to classify? Rather than just put everything in one great big journal, you may want to decide what you want to do with it. Do you want to archive all that data? You may have a requirement to keep personal information for 1 year, but keep your business information for 7 years. For example, you may want to tag items, so when you're doing your compliance searches, you may want to tag on confidential information, business information, and really think about what you're putting into the information. Just one of the common questions with classification, when you enable classification, it does classify those emails from that point onwards. It is really simple to reclassify all of your older data, so you can rebuild your index and be able to reclassify your old data, and then it will set the classification policies and you can change your retention plans and retention lifespan. Okay. So classification works with any ingested content into Enterprise Vault. It's not just about your Exchange journaling content. You can classify your file and SharePoint content. You set up your policies that you want to use, and then you can either archive your item, you can discard it. You can say, I really don't want that item, I'm just going to discard that, that's taking up clutter in my journal. You then set your retention category, and this can be based on the metadata of the message or the content of the message. And it's very customizable as how you set this up. And then you can set your customizable tags. So when you're doing your e-discovery searches, you can filter on those tags. Okay. So how does it work? How does it set up? Now, if you've been working with Enterprise Vault for many years, you know that Enterprise Vault 11 did have a classification, but it was using Oracle backend system, and it was so it's called Data Classification Services. Just to clarify, this is completely different from that. This is built in with Enterprise Vault, and it uses Microsoft File Resource Manager. So it hooks in with the Microsoft Classification Services, and the Veritas team have built in on that.
Yeah, just to be clear on that, so the Data Classification Services originally was a semantic product and was effectively part of the DLP suite of products. And since the split, Veritas have OEM'd certain aspects of semantics license estate, their software estate. This isn't one of them. So in version 12, well, they've licensed it for older versions. So if you've got Data Classification Services, there is a free upgrade into this. But if you wish to retain it, that's still licensed moving forward, but not for new setups of EV12. So there's no semantic component to it anymore.
Okay. Thank you. So pretty much just how it works, the item's ingested by the agent or API, it's passed to the storage service, then it performs the content conversion. Now if classification is enabled, the index passes to the file classification infrastructure. That then chooses what to classify based on the rules. It then decides whether it needs to tag the items, and then the index matches the properties to retention categories, and hey ho, you've now classified your data as you journal it. Okay. Retention plans. So think of a retention plan like a retention category. So this is where you set your classification policy, and then you set your retention plan, and then you decide what you want to do with the data. So it's all managed from the console. So in the policy section, you just used to have retention. Now it's called retention and classification. So this is where you set it up. Okay. So think about when you're deciding on retention, and classification, what do you want to classify? Have you got a regulated reason to classify that data? Are you just interested in your confidential items, internal? So you've really got to build up on what you want to classify and why you want to do it. So definitely get the compliance teams involved on this one. When you upgrade to version 12, Enterprise Vault does come with pre-built classification rules. And these can be modified, or you can create your own customized rules. So to assign an archive, I've just put this in just to show how simple it is. So you just use a simple PowerShell script, and then you assign your archive to a retention plan. Once you've assigned it, it is highly recommended to run the archive classification in test mode. So you can pretty much assign for example, a journal archive, enable classification for it. You'll then get an extra classification tab on the properties of the archive, and then you can enable test mode. Just on this, you can run classification in test mode without having the additional classification license, and at the end of the slides, Chris will talk a bit about the licensing for Enterprise Vault 12. But this we can see pretty much, you can see what will happen when you re-index, what will be classified, whether items will be expired, what tags will be put on the items, whether there will be any retention categories, and all the changes that are happening. This is a good way of testing whether classifications will be good for you. Okay, when you do put the tags in, when you're using your compliance tools, you can view the tags within Compliance Accelerator, and it will show you the policy. So this one's for US Social Security numbers, and it'll tell you, then you can see why it's tagged that item. So it's pretty useful. I know a lot of the Veritas teams and a lot of people talking about gated deletion. So what the classification will do and what gated deletion means is that if you enable your users to do manual delete from Vault, or the archives are due to storage expiry is due to expire the data, it will check if those items have been classified, and if they've been sent a retention plan that says do not delete me, then this will stop those deletions from taking place. So it will check to see if the items can be safely deleted before deleting them. Just a quick one on what gated deletion is. Another common question, will classification have a performance impact? It's pretty much when it's classifying for the ingestion, it's negligible, 0 to 3%. When you're rebuilding your indexes, so if you want to go back and reclassify all of your historic data, then it takes on average about 20% longer. Other than for the disk impact, that's also negligible. So very small impact there. It's all good. So we're just going to go through some new features of Compliance Accelerator as well. So intelligent review. It's pretty much, as I've mentioned earlier on at the start, Compliance Accelerator is used for doing regular checks on the journal data or the journal feeds, whether it be from a mailbox or your Skype messages or your Bloomberg messages. It'll be a daily feed on that data, and then they go through and they mark the items as relevant or not relevant, and so on. So now they've added new options. You can mark your reviewed, and you can mark them as relevant and non-relevant, and it can also now start to do machine learning. So this is where it will learn from your results and your marking. So it will then automatically, so you'll mark so many items as relevant, irrelevant, then the machine will automatically categorize those emails for you. And pretty much the more you mark, the more it will learn, the more it will automate the process. And you can put the relevance threshold as higher or lower, and clear the learning and reset. So this will be probably good for some of our banking environments where they regularly use Compliance Accelerator.
Yeah, so the Compliance Accelerator at the moment is primarily in Japanese and US banks and their UK counterparts, their European counterparts, but we've seen it growing into other areas of late. And it's an effective monitoring tool of the journal and a sampling tool of that journal, so you can actually sample between an nth of 1% up to 100% of that whole journal on a regular basis, so you keep an eye on what people are sending out. You know, we've seen applications for in M&A activity within organisations. People want to keep an eye on who's sending information outside of the organisation and whether they're the authorised party to send that information. So it doesn't stop you sending it out. You know who's doing it after they sent it. So it can reveal the fingerprints upon the emails that were sent out.
Okay. Another feature that's been added into version 12 is Open Accelerator reporting. If you've got Compliance Accelerator, Discovery Accelerator, at the moment you can only run the predefined reports if you upload them to your SQL reporting server. Now they've opened up the reporting, so you can create your own customized reports. To do this, they've opened up a protocol, OData, and then you can pretty much write your own customized reports. So just to show you, you can add an OData feed in Excel, and then from there you can create reports using any of the requirements that you wish. So for this example on here, you can see the total number of items in all of our cases, number of items produced, which is exported, how many items still to review, how many items questioned, and so on. And we can put it into nice graphs and make it a lot more presentable than the current reports that with version 11 and below. Okay. There are some more additional search enhancements. So,
sorry, Louise, just before you go on that. So, big changes to search were made in earlier versions. So, those of you who may already be on an earlier version, really just sort of
Yeah, so
conceptualise that for people.
version 10 and below, the search didn't really change for a good 12, 13 years. It was, you had multiple different searches. You could use your Outlook integrated search when you click on your search vault button. You could use your Archive Explorer, which gave you a folder-based static view of your archive data, or you could go onto a browser and then you get the shopping baskets.
And that was all powered by the original Alta Vista Digital Equipment Corporation's DEC search engine. So DEC was bought by Compaq many, many years ago, who was subsequently bought by HP. So it was very old in the tooth, so the enhancement was overdue. Sorry.
Oh, that's fine. So when you go up to version 11, then you've got two options here, and I'm just going to, because this is related to version 12 as well, in a way. You can decide if you want to use the old historic searches, you can still keep that search. Or you've got the option, two different options. You can either select for everyone to use the new EV11 search, which you click on the site properties and you enable the EV11 search. Once you do that, there's no going back from that tick box, so just bear that in mind. Alternatively, you can roll out the EV11 search through client provisioning groups, so you can enable different teams of people to use the EV11 search and roll it out in a stage approach. Generally, from what we see, most people like the new search because it looks the same whether you're in Outlook, whether you're in a browser, whether you're on an iPad. It looks the same. It's this. And what version 12 have done, they've enhanced that and made it look even prettier, changed the colour schemes, makes it look very satisfied, and given some new features which you'll like. So if you do need me to come along and do an advanced search demo for anyone, then please ask. We've had a few, when we've been doing these EV12 sessions, we've had a few clients that say, hey, they like the old shopping basket search because they haven't got any e-discovery tools, and we found they were using the shopping baskets to search their journal. This is where, be warned, when you go up to version 11 or 12, you don't need to upgrade. You can still keep some people using the old search and everyone else using the new search. My recommendation, if you need to search your journal, use one of the discovery tools. Don't be using this search because it's designed for end users to find your own archive data. The search can be used for not just your email data. If you've got file archiving, SharePoint archiving, it can be used to anything it can search against any archives that you've got permissions to. Okay, that's where EV11 search came in. For version 12, our enhancements, we now have a recent button. For version 11, you could create your searches, you can save them, so you can go back and do multiple searches. With this recent button, you haven't got to worry about saving your searches. It will show you any searches that you've completed against your archive and when you search for that data and what archived emails you opened. So that's quite useful. I've used it myself just to, rather than remember what I searched for previously. Okay. List view, so they've modified it slightly for tablets just to make it more friendly for the tablet devices. So if you publish out your Enterprise Vault URL with a secure certificate, then you can access your search, Enterprise Vault search from anywhere. So anyone at BlueSource, the sales team, they've all got a mixture of Surface devices or iPads. They can put in their URL and they don't have to be on a network and they can access their archive data. And this works if they can access it from their mobile phones or for any of the tablets that are out there. Quick dates. This came in version 12, so now you can specify quick dates. So you can say 1 year, 6 months, 3 months, or you can just select the year that you want and then select the month and now quickly search for that data. So the idea is that you're narrowing down what you want to search for. So this might please a lot of people. So the archive images are now shown in the preview pane. So sometimes people email out a JPEG. They won't put any text in. So previously on version 11, it wouldn't show anything. So it looked like there was nothing in the email, whereas now it will display the images, which is nice. we've got a feature called Refile, so you can create folders, you can move items to different folders, you can delete folders, so you can create folders within your archive view, within your EBS search. So it's probably for people like folders. I know me personally, I file all of my emails into different folders for different people within BlueSource that I talk to, and this is, sometimes they leave the company, I delete the folders, sometimes I want to create folders. So if you're a folder person, you'll like this options. Okay, regional settings. So you can adjust your date format, which is a good one. So if you're in America, you may want it back to front. If you're in the UK, then you can have it the proper way around, how the date fields are supposed to look. You can modify this. You can, so there's lots of enhancements to how each individual person may want to view their archived data. You've now got suggestions, so now it will remember your previous searches, and as you start typing, a bit like when you're doing a Google search, it will happily finish it off for you, and you can scroll down and select previous searches that you've done. Okay, some other enhancements. SQL always on support. Some people get excited by this, mainly people that work with SQL. SQL teams over the years, these last few years, have asked for this. It works with SQL 2012 and SQL 2014, always on support, high availability groups. So mixed feedback on who gets excited or not on this one. It has got an S3 cloud adapter as well, so you can migrate your storage off to Amazon Cloud, or S3 Cloud, sorry. And for FSA, you can now PowerShell script your targets for file system archiving. So there is a PowerShell guide that came out that also gives you lots of all the new PowerShell commandlets that you can use. Another, you can import to Internet Mail Archive. So this is useful because at the moment when you do a PST import, you need an archive, and you can only create an archive on older versions if you've got an Exchange mailbox. Now you can create an archive without the need to create a mailbox archive and then import that data in. So if you've got people in the cloud, you've moved to 365, but you've got loads of PSTs out there and you want to bring them into your archive, you can do that quite simply.
On this area, we would typically recommend you do that for testing purposes, so you use that feature for testing purposes. If you're doing a bulk archive migration, we would recommend the use of third-party products to do that, because you get a chain of custody with those products, and it enables the process to be restarted if it gets interrupted mid PST migration. So, clearly we can provide you with a lot more information. We've got a very large data migration team here within BlueSource that can assist you with those sorts of projects. But this is a useful facet for just moving a subsection of users into one of the cloud platforms, particularly Office 365 is great for, and you can see how it works, using very low numbers of PSTs ideally.
Okay, thank you, Chris. For heavy users of DA and CA, they've improved the accelerators, so now exports out of the accelerator tools are now up to 3 times faster, so that will please people. I mean, some clients, they've been known to use Discovery Accelerator, export data out, and then use the Clearwell tool. So some people may have Compliance Accelerator, Discovery Accelerator, and Clearwell in different circumstances.
Yeah, quite a few of our Clearwell clients have Discovery Accelerator at least, and they use it in just that way. And clearly, if you're exporting PSTs out to external legal counsel, usually you're doing it in a time-constrained manner, so they need that information fairly quickly. So the improvement in the speed of that will only help things for the business users.
Yeah. Just one thing that the Veritas team have been brilliant at this year, they've updated all of the white papers, and they've written white papers for all of the features that come with Enterprise Vault 12. I'll get the marketing team to send you a PDF out of the slides, and you can have a look at some of these white papers. They are all on the Veritas support site, which again has been updated, and had a few teething problems earlier on in the year, but it's stabilised, and all of the documentation, I will say, is brilliant from the Veritas Enterprise Vault perspective. Okay, I'm going to hand over to Chris, who's going to do a little bit on the licenses for Enterprise Vault nowadays.
Thanks, Louise. So for those of you who already have EV and aren't looking to take on any of the additional features that you've heard about today, so such as classification or maybe data insight, there's no need to concern yourselves. You will continue to be supported on your old license SKUs moving forward. So Veritas and Semantic before them have always been, they don't force you into a change. But if you were to buy something new today, so if you were thinking about going down the EV12 route today, there has been a change to the licensing. Even if you have an existing EV site with certain features, obviously if you wish to take on extra modules, you will need to buy additional licenses. So just very briefly, the new license bundles, which are the primary way that Veritas sell these things now, or BlueSource even on Veritas' behalf sell these things. Email management, which used to be called storage management, now renamed email management. It's a per-user license. It covers mailbox archiving, Vault Cache, PSC Migrator, IMAP connection, and Enterprise Vault Search. You've then got file management, and that is for the new metric, or the metric on file management is per terabyte. That includes Enterprise Vault Search, file system archiving, and SharePoint archiving, so all bundled into one SKU. You then got file governance, which is the same as file management, but adds data insight into the equation. Again, metric on a terabyte basis. And data insight is very interesting. It's been developed over the years within the Veritas and Semantic community, and we are currently doing an offer on that. We're providing services to people around what we term a dark data assessment. We can provide more information on that. If you just contact the marketing team on this, we can provide you with details on what we can do for you around that. And that essentially just takes a snippet of your file system and provides a report back to you to show you what the art of the possible is. And you may want to use that as some form of ROI case for implementing some form of cleanup of your file and SharePoint system. Moving on, we've got Archive Discovery, which is journaling and discovery accelerator. That they used to call that eDiscovery, but they realized that calling it eDiscovery sort of confused people, because they've also called Clearwell the eDiscovery platform now. So this is now called Archive Discovery in the new Veritas world. But no change to your licenses, so you don't need to concern yourselves unless you're buying it afresh, as I say. Then similarly, you've got a new bundle called Supervision. And Supervision is just a combination of journaling and compliance accelerator. So those clients who are going to buy Clearwell, so the more highly regulated in finance and insurance, are more likely to be looking at Supervision. So buy journaling with compliance accelerator and then tag Clearwell onto that license SKU. So that's called Supervision. That and Archive Discovery are per user license based. And then really the whole new one is what's termed retention as a bundle. And retention includes classification across all content, gated deletion that we talked about, reclassification, so the ability for you to reindex everything and get historical data all classified, plus the retention plans that Louise alluded to earlier. And then there are various other standalone bundle options as you see fit. So including you can buy data insight just by itself if you so wish, and a few other items you can buy by itself. But Veritas are trying to push people towards buying products in combination. So for example, they don't see the point of anyone buying journaling without at least either Discovery Accelerator or Clearwell, because they have made, as Louise mentioned during the presentation, they've made changes to the search tool, and so if you have the new search tool, you're going to struggle to use what is effectively a user search engine for compliance search purposes.
Yeah.
Louise, I don't know whether you have anything to add on that.
Yeah, it's just the sheer number of items in the journal.
Yeah.
the discovery tools would make it so much quicker to search against the journal, filter out the rubbish, and then find what you're looking for very easily and quickly. Okay, so that's it for our slides. I don't know if marketing are going to bring us any questions.
We haven't had any questions
No
yet.
questions.
A few minutes. We'll give it a few more minutes.
Okay, if anyone does have any questions, then please feel free to type them now. And as Chris said at the start, if anyone wants us to come and visit and talk about your own environment, talk about how to upgrade you, what steps you've got to go through. Just one thing that I didn't mention, the big changes on the OS and SQL side of things. With version 12, Windows 2008 and SQL 2008 are no longer supported. Windows Enterprise Vault 12 does support SQL 2012 and SQL 2014, and Windows 2012 R2.
Thank you. Yes, very interesting stuff.
Some people will find that interesting, I'm sure.
The only other thing I would add, which is slightly roadmappy, is if the business is considering archiving Skype for Business content,
oh, yes.
Louise may want to just touch on that very briefly.
Yeah, so we've been running version 12 at Bluesource for 4 or 5 months now, and we are archiving natively using the Enterprise Vault all our Skype messages direct into our EV, so that we can use our e-discovery tools to journal. So we're currently working with Veritas to test this, and since we put it in, we've had 0 issues, and all of the Skype messages are safely stored in our journal. And this feature will be coming out soon in Enterprise Vault 12. It hasn't come out in the initial release, but I have had on good faith that it will be coming out shortly.
Yeah, just to sort of talk again about our STEP partners, or Veritas' STEP partner program. The S in that stands for semantics, so there's a way to go. I think they have renamed it, but it's not quite as nimble as STEP anymore. It's a bunch of acronyms. But with those guys, they are a very important and will continue to be a very important community to Veritas, and they develop things such as connectors to enable you to push Bloomberg and Reuters content into Enterprise Vault, and that becomes a very interesting aspect for the financial services industry, certainly anyone who's got a Bloomberg or Reuters terminal. So the STEP partner program will remain very important in Veritas. It's also used, so the STEP partners gain access to the back-end API within the Enterprise Vault site, and that enables them to do other things as well. So all of the third-party migration products out there, please check that the third-party migration tool you're using is a STEP partner, because that would enable them to move stuff directly into the back end of Enterprise Vault, and you know the benefits of that are that it's fully supported by Veritas, going either way, whether you're pushing it in or pulling it out, and that's a significant factor when doing large complex migrations.
Okay, we've had a question in. Do you want to read the question now?
Yeah. So the question is, does EV1112 support a user performing a journal search? We had this on EMC Email Extender prior to moving to EV. Email Extender search exposes archive journal to users.
Okay, so the way Enterprise Vault works is different to the way Email Extender works. That is very similar to some of the other solutions.
Particularly a lot of the cloud. So Email Extender is very similar to the cloud solution. So essentially, Email Extender takes a view of the journal or takes the journal and then slices that up for each individual user. So they're not really. So they're only able to search those archived items they are given permission to. Now, if you have permission to everything, then you can search everything. But if you only are given permission to your own archive, that is all you can search, even with Email Extender.
Okay, yeah, so pretty much you can permission out the journal. Say if you've got your head of HR that wants to search against the journal, you can permission that out so they can search everything in the journal. But for an end user, then they would have their own mailbox archive, which is separate to a journal archive, and they will see the data in their mailbox archive only. What Enterprise Vault does do when you've got mailbox archives and general archives, you can enable single instance storage. You are only keeping one copy of the data, but they are separate databases behind the scenes, and it doesn't work the same way.
Yeah, absolutely. I would only say in addition to that, of course, if that's what you as an organisation wants to do, you can give permission to anyone to search the whole of the journal archive, but it rather defeats the object of the exercise. So it is possible to do that, and if you wished every user to have access to everyone's archive, that's fine, but it wouldn't make a great deal of sense in these days of privacy and all of that good stuff.
Okay. I had another question. Clients enabled the new EV1112 search. Can you still use the legacy Archive Explorer search? You can still use your legacy searches only if you haven't enabled the EV11 search at the site properties. If you've enabled that at the site properties on the search tab, then there's no going back. If you've enabled the EV11-12 searches through the client provisioning way, then you can still have access to your old search. So just be careful when you're doing the upgrade that you don't tick the EV11 search if you don't want it enabled for everyone. Okay. Cool.
Great. Well, we're going to draw that to a conclusion now. We hope we've got a few minutes back in your diary today, but very succinct, Louise. Thank you very much for whipping through that at a decent pace. And as we say, if anyone's got any subsidiary questions or want to visit, we're at your disposal to come and see you, and we'd love to evangelise about Enterprise Vault to a greater extent. It still has a future, although everyone recognises that future may be maybe diminishing a little bit, but it nonetheless has a future for many, many years. There are many, many, many petabytes of data sitting within Enterprise Vault.
Just one thing on that, if you do have a cloud requirement, we do move Enterprise Vault on-premise solutions into the Microsoft Azure and then host it and manage it for clients. So if that's a remit or something you're interested in, again, come and ask.
Yeah, that's a very good point. And just to finish that point off, in so doing, that isn't a migration. That is effectively, to those of you that sort of appreciate the differences, that is a server failover up into Azure. And we would heartily recommend that you get BlueSource to manage that for you once you do that. But the technology, BlueSource done a lot of work and testing on that for ourselves and on behalf of Veritas, and we have got clients sitting in Azure, but having their EV, not EV.cloud, their EV sitting in servers in a public cloud platform, but privately available only to them by the Azure service.
Yeah, so clients that we do host in Azure, we also keep them on the latest versions, make sure that they're patched and basically fully manage it. So if you're thinking of upgrading from versions 9 or 10 and you want to get up to 12 and you want to replace your hardware, this may be an additional option.
Yeah, and similarly, we manage about 150 separate clients for EV within the boundaries of their own premise. So we have a lot of managed clients. Some of them have very, very large infrastructures that BlueSource manage. I can name one. I probably aren't meant to, but Facebook is a managed client that BlueSource manages. So it's we have great expertise in that area. And if you're looking at finding ways of concentrating on things which may be more exciting to the IT department rather than just the daily tasks of running an archiving platform, then BlueSource are in a position to do that on your behalf.
Just to add, Chris, that archiving might be exciting to some people in this world.
We'll move on to that very quickly. So thanks everyone for joining in today.